to Business, the Art of Winning. And I've got a very special guest today. This is Greg Story. He's president of Dale Carnegie, Japan. And like me, he's been in business a long time. 35 years in Japan, Greg. That's a significant amount of time. And what's great about Greg is he's a Queenslander through and through. And he obviously backs the Maroons when they play well. And hey, Greg, nice to have you on board. And look, I wanted to bring you on board because we've been working together and I admire what you do. You're the podcast champion. You've done 545 speeches. You've written several books. You've survived and thrived in business. And our last 2 years, I guess now, has been challenging for both of us. So I thought I'd tap into what's going on with some of the franchisees throughout the world, especially with someone with your experience. Hey, tell us a little bit about what it's like to run the business there in Dale Carnegie, Japan.
Well, thank you very much, Will, for that very kind introduction. And as you say, for many industries, and I think our training industry is certainly one of them, the last 2 years has been extraordinarily tough. And we've seen many fine companies go to the wall through COVID, just as changes in business. So if you're still in business and having like this conversation today after 2 years of this, congratulations to all of you, because it has been hard. I think Japan's a little bit special case in many ways. It really hasn't had the number of deaths that we've seen in many countries. They managed to avoid that. Japanese are very compliant with commands from the government. They are very much a culture of people who are thoughtful about others. So, telling people to wear masks, well, they were wearing masks before COVID, because in Japan, if you had a cold, for example, a simple cold, you wore the mask not to protect you, you wore the mask to protect those around you. So that type of servant to others mentality is very strong in the culture here. So I think that's been a big factor in helping Japan avoid the worst of the deaths, at least. Still had a lot of cases. We had nearly 6,000 cases a day in Tokyo during the Olympics, and now we're sort of down to under 30 a day. So it's been a big turnaround. Now you would think, okay, great. Hey, we're back to normal. This is going to be good. Business is going to be looking good. But the Japanese, of course, are always, the glass is half empty. They're always half empty. They're not like Australians with the glass is half full. So they're thinking, oh, okay, we're about to go into our 6th wave, because winter, it's very cold here in Tokyo today. Our winter is approaching. So the business mentality is, we'll just wait. And that's always the mentality, is we'll wait. No one gets rewarded in Japan for taking a risk.
Right.
This is very interesting. If you're a company employee, you don't get rewarded for taking risk, but you get punished for problems, failures, errors, defects, that type of thing. So very conservative, very, very conservative business environment to work in.
Sure.
So, for us, once you understand the culture, we've got the language, we've been here nearly 60 years. Well, we're actually the longest running, continuously running training company in Japan for B2B, which is quite interesting, isn't it? So we've got a long, long history here. And we've been through our ups and downs over those 60 years. But I think this down by far has been the hardest, for sure.
Hardest for the business. And look, you've also been in business in one way or another internationally, and well-traveled person as well, well-educated person as well. And this is the business, the art of winning. What would be some advice that you would give our listeners on not just surviving, but thriving and learning to adapt to your new environment, like you've had to do in the last 2 years, Greg?
Yeah, well, I think, you and I are both sales guys, and we love selling, and we know that sales is the heart of every business. You can't have a business unless there's a customer and the customer's prepared to pay for a service or a product. Now, one of the key things from my mind is we shouldn't be focused on the sale.
Right.
We should all be focused on the reorder. And I think this is where we can learn something from Japan. The Japanese companies are not looking for a transactional relationship with a partner. If they're supplying a service, they want that service to continue. They want to have trust in that supplier. They want to have a true partnership. And I think for a lot of companies in Australia, and particularly in Queensland, etc., they could benefit from that mentality. So if you're thinking lifetime value of the customer, if you're thinking reorder, if you're thinking trusted partner, I think that gets you onto a different wavelength as opposed to, you know, how much can I squeeze out of this deal? How much can I get? You know, I'll just burn this one, I'll get another one to replace them. Here, certainly, and I think Australia increasingly too through social media, you burn companies here. You're a bit too on the sharp practice, you know, so sharp you could cut yourself type of sharp business person. You'll have a very short trajectory here. And I think increasingly in Australia too. You know, I was going through my social media a little while ago now, and up popped this post that said, hey, has anyone seen Mr. XYZ? He owes me money.
Oh, okay.
I was flabbergasted. Oh my, I actually knew the guy.
Right.
I actually knew the guy, and we were actually talking to that guy about doing business together.
Sure.
Well, I went in, I checked out straight away, did a search. Boy, oh boy, a lot of very nasty stuff came up.
Yeah.
We stopped the deal straight away.
Right.
This is what I'm saying. In the old days, you could burn someone and move on. Right. Today, no. Your name is going to be mud, and it's going to be mud globally, and it's going to be mud instantly. So if you don't have that true trusted partnership concept in your mind, well, what is the concept?
So
what are you thinking?
So what would be your 3 guiding values that you would say would really help any young entrepreneur or existing business owner who might be listening to this podcast for ideas? What would be some of your guiding values or competencies as a leader?
Yeah, I'm going to use a Japanese word because I'm in Japan, but there's a Japanese word called kokorogamai, and it means basically your true intention. Yeah. So I would suggest that be they a budding entrepreneur or an established business person, true intention is the starting point. It's a spark. It's a spark of what's going on in your mind about people you deal with in business, be they suppliers to you or you're a supplier to somebody else. Sure. What's your true intention here? Is it to build a lifetime partnership, reorder, trust, good reputation, don't have problems on social media, don't have problems of word of mouth, and you build an ongoing business where you scale with people who see you as an integral part of their success, because that's how you make them feel. Oh, this person is legitimately trying to help me to be successful, and they understand that in my success is their success. So I think that initial intention, spark, starting point inside your own brain and inside your heart is very, very critical. The other thing, obviously, is to be reliable and accountable and responsible. And if you say you're going to do something, do something. This was back in the days when I was working for the embassy, Australian embassy. We were importing, I was running an office in Nagoya, trade promotion through Austrade. We were importing bark into Japan. Now, bark can't have pebbles, sticks, you know, anything in it but pure bark. It's got to be very, very clean because it goes into gardens here, this type of thing. Japanese are very finicky about this type of quality. Sure. So the bark supplier from Brisbane, mind you, on the day the container is supposed to leave port, rings us up and says, oh, by the way, we missed the boat, but don't worry, it'll be on the next one. Oh my God, all hell broke loose, because in Japan, they don't have a lot of warehousing space. So everyone's just in time. So you keep a minimum amount of supply, and then you have a food chain of people you supply to are all doing the same thing. So any wrinkle in that supply chain has a compound effect down the line. You're burning that client's food supply of all their trusted, you know, relationships. Well, I can tell you, that was tremendously bad for us. And that was the end of that client as far as exporting to Japan went. So my point is, do what you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and with the quality you're going to do it. And if you have some problem, don't prevaricate, don't justify, don't debate, just fix it. Because, you know, people don't want to have all that nonsense when you've done the wrong thing. They want you to fix it and fast. And often we know this. If we do have some hiccup and we really go above and beyond to fix it, the client feels even more trust for us, because now they know when things get rough and tough, this person is going to come to the fore and they're going to help us. And I think the other thing too is, we probably, and this was me for a very long time in my life, very typical Aussie, independent, self-reliant, I can do this by myself, And I think it took, I'm a bit of a slow learner. Well, it took me a long time to work this out, but I think it also, particularly in today's more complex business environment, we have to think more deeply about how we can have others helping us to succeed and have a circle of support, mentors, people who can short circuit things. I remember years and years ago, there was a guy, a friend of mine who's an accountant, and he said to me, look, if I get 80% of what I'm after, I'm happy. In my brain, I'm thinking, what? Only 80%? What's wrong with you? You should be going for 100%.
Yeah.
That was my mindset, you know. And I think I've wised up a bit to realize, yeah, if you're getting 80% of what you want in a complex business environment, you're doing pretty well. Yeah. But I wasn't like that. But I think I've matured a little bit, and I've learned that others are there. We can help ourselves if we have good relationships and expand our circle. And I think that's something I probably didn't do for too long. And now I realize that was folly on my part. So I would suggest, don't just think you have to do it by yourself anymore. It's a complex world. It's a big world. It's a global world. Yeah. Look for where you can have good, sound, helpful relationship, and listen to great podcasts like yours, because you're giving real time, real life, hard-earned experience advice to people. So you're saving them decades. You're saving them a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heartache, you know, and we didn't have this. I mean, you know, we couldn't get access to this type of information in the old days, impossible. Now we can just go onto, you know, our podcast app and bingo, we get the, you know, the real world, real time experience. I mean, there's gold, absolute gold. So thank you for the podcast.
Well, hey, you actually inspired me when I was watching some of your podcasts. And you know, you've got quite a few podcasts. You've written several books. You've embraced your market. You've taken the lessons that you've learned in your life and you've applied it to your market. And you also adapted too, because the styles are quite different. Tell us a little bit about your latest book.
Oh, okay. And as it turns out, I've doing some self-promotion here with my background. Of those who are listening, you can't see it, but in the background of my Zoom call, I have a fan shape of 5 of my books called Japan Presentations Mastery. Now, as Will mentioned, the first book I wrote was Japan Sales Mastery, which the Japanese translation is in the final stages. It's been laid out. We're just fixing a few little things. It will go into print probably next week. The second book I wrote was Japan Business Mastery. And now this one, Japan Presentations Mastery. And the next one will be Japan Leadership Mastery. Now, why am I writing all these books? Well, ironically, when I wrote the one on sales, the previous book on selling in Japan was written by another Australian, Roger Marsh. And this was back in the 30 years ago, probably 35 years ago, when Japan was hot. And sort of Japan went off the boil quite a bit and China became hot. Now people question marks about, you know, China. There's a few things around China's not that easy to deal with anymore. And it's not that cheap anymore. But anyway, so I wrote that. And I realized that this is a tremendous tool for getting new business. And in the first week that we released that book here, and that was released in English, mind you, when we released it, we got one deal that paid for that book 600 times in a week. So, you know,
congratulations.
These are all content marketing. Now, a number of years ago, I'd never heard of the term content marketing. What's that? And then I started to dig into it, and people were talking about, well, okay, you need to put out your quality content for free into the market, and then people will recognize that you are a legitimate provider of that particular service or product. And that's how you're going to get business. So I've been doing that. And then I started with the one book. And then the reason I did the second book was, you know, I'd go into a meeting with the president, I'd hand over my book. Now, some, like you and I will, if you and I get a book on sales, our eyes light up.
You
start salivating at the corner of the mouth. Oh, great, give it to me. What's in here? Can I learn something? But not every president's like that. Some have come up through accounting as a CFO who's bridged across to the president. Some have come up through general management. Some have come up through technology. And they don't salivate. Their eyes don't dilate when they see a book on sales. And I've noticed this. I'm in the meeting, I give the book, they go, oh yeah, don't care. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So a lot of the people that I personally, all my team are Japanese, but I get access to the presidents, the foreign presidents who are running the entire Japanese operation with all their Japanese staff who need training in Japanese, but they are the top decision maker. So I'd go and I was getting that reaction. So I wrote the second book, Japan Business Mastery for Foreigners Who Don't Know Japan.
Yeah.
Instead of coming here, making all the mistakes, and then after 3 years working out and being transferred to your next post, I wanted a book that I could give to newly arrived presidents and save them a lot of wear and tear.
Right.
And their eyes would dilate and they'd be looking interestingly at this book. So now I'd walk around with 2 books. And the one on presentation skills, like Dale Carnegie himself, he started in 1912 in New York. His very first training was on presentation skills, persuasion skills, how to get your message across, concisely, clearly, in a very, very, very effective manner. So that's where he started. And from there, he bridged out to have leadership at sales. And, this is a true presentations course, not just public speaking, a true presentations course. So again, we want to help people with their presentation skills, particularly in Japan, because they're way behind. I mean, the first public speeches in Japan didn't happen until the Meiji Restoration, which was 1868. So somewhere around about 1870s, 80s, the first public speech was given in Japan. Now you think about Western culture, we go right back to Greece. We go back to the orators of Rome. We value people who can speak well. We value, the power of the words. Like we talk about, Winston Churchill put the English language into the front line of the war, in the Second World War. The power of oratory, rhetoric, that type of thing. But Japan's way behind because they didn't have a culture. Samurai warlords didn't get everybody together and give a sort of Braveheart, Mel Gibson, here we go into battle speech. They didn't do that. They sat in a cordoned area with their other chiefs and they sent their troops out and people would come and tell them what's happening in the battle. They didn't even see it. And then they give orders, So different. So public speaking is very, I'd say, way behind here in many aspects. So this is one part of that. And this is something that you and I will, I think, out of the many things we do to help companies, helping people to be able to take what they're thinking, get it into a concise, no rambling, no fluff.
That's more important today than any other time, right?
Concise. People are time poor. Concise, clear formation, and it's persuasive. That thing alone is a game changer for everybody. More so here. So that book is to get us more presentations training, and it will. Again, this is another one. I had a meeting with a client, found out what they need in terms of broad brush, sent them my book by mail because they're in a little bit out of Tokyo and he didn't want to meet anyway because he doesn't trust the Japanese government numbers on COVID numbers. So he did it like this. We did it on Zoom. Then I sent him the book. Boom. We got an order. We got an order straight away. That was like 275% paying for the cost of this book in one order. So, it's powerful. So that's why
great advantage of content marketing.
Well, it is, but you've got to have the content, I mean, the things my books are like your podcast, Will. Your podcast is from the heart. It's from your real, hard-earned experiences in business, from the trials, tribulations, the successes. Well, my books are the same. It's very much me. I write as I speak. I write as I speak. So it's written in a very vernacular style. So it's easy to digest, but I write what's coming through my mind as I would speak it. So, it's easy to absorb. And it's coming from my real experiences. And if you read the book, it's, I go to presentations and I've given a lot and I've seen a lot. So, you work out after a while what works and doesn't work. And I did a TED talk and then I put I wrote about how an expert gives a TED talk and I made that the bonus chapter in the book. Just as an extra chapter, I put it in there because we were just about to go to the print. I said, can I put one more in? Put it in. And that was a new experience too, because for me, I'd never done a TED talk before. I'd done a lot of other speeches. I collected that experience real world experience, and then put it in the book. So it's got to be real. All of us in business, salespeople particularly, and you and I both know, by far, salespeople are the most difficult group to teach.
They are. I already know it.
By far, most skeptical, most proud, most stuck in their ways, But
it's because of that, it's because of that resilience, right? You have to be so resilient. You have to take rejection day after day. You have to be like a hunter. And so you can't be, you can't be blowing in the wind like a feather, right? You've got to be tough. And so, they definitely are a resilient breed. But I'm proud to be a salesperson, because it builds a lot of character. Hey, I would love to know a little bit about desire, because you're a black belt master, you're a podcast, you're a author of several books, you run Dale Carnegie franchise, and I know how time consuming that is. You're on the board too of Dale Carnegie Franchise Associates. How do you fit it all in? And how do people who want to be successful in business learn how to tap into desire to achieve their goals?
Yeah, I'm a workaholic. That's true. It's one of those classic statements about if you're doing something you love, you don't have to work a day again in your life type of thing. It's similar to that, not exactly that similar, but on the other side though, I don't expect my team to be like that. And we have many things in our company, mantras and sayings and whatever. It's a very tribal type of culture we're building here. Okay. But one thing we say is our values. We have, we're professional, respectful, enthusiastic, sincere, principled. Yeah. But we also have a second order, which says our value priorities are, and this is the company's view of you as an employee, your health, your family's health, company health, in that order. Because I may be, as the owner of the business, prepared to work that hard, but they have, families, they have commitments, they have lives. I don't expect them to work like I do. Now, in my own case, I think probably I'm working the hardest I've ever worked in my life in this last 2 years because of the pandemic, by far. When we moved home on sort of mid-February 2020. We all went home to get off the trains. Like, I've been in trains in Australia. Trust me, that's not crowded. Right. You want to be on a crowded train, come to Tokyo. That's a crowded train. So you do not want to be in a train where every molecule in your body is up against somebody else's molecule in the train. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tight. So we try to avoid those packed rush hour trains. So we're staying at home. But I wound up working much longer hours at home. Now, okay, I had the flexibility of time. I didn't have to commute, but I found I was sitting 3-4 hours at a time, not even getting up. Because in the office, I'd have to go to the photocopier. I'd have to, go and get a coffee or something, go out and have lunch, whatever. I wasn't moving much. And also I was working and still working 7 days a week, Wow. And that's survival, that's just pure unadulterated survival, because the industry, as a training industry, has been really whacked here, particularly I think in Japan. We moved straight across on the 28th of February. 26th of February, we decided, okay, we're going to start moving all our training across to online. Yeah. Within 9 days, we had all our trainers certified to do it online. And Dale Carnegie is very strict about trainer ability to do anything. You've got to be certified. And we had all our producers certified in just 9 days from scratch. So that was like lightning speed, and so we got up to speed very, very quickly. However, we got up to speed, but did the clients get up to speed? No. They're Japanese. They're very conservative. They don't have to rush. They think, oh, no, we like face-to-face. We'll just wait. Some of them are still waiting 2 years later. They're still waiting. They haven't moved. So, we moved quickly. And that, I think, we had to keep telling people, don't forget to set your alarm to stand up every hour. Make sure you're not working too long hours, because it's so easy to do that. So I think for me, I've had to sort of ramp up the content marketing, because I'm not doing networking anymore. Only just recently, in the last couple of weeks in Tokyo, we've actually started. I went to my first physical networking event. Wow. And it was only half the people. It was all social distance, like you'd have normally, maybe you'd have 6 people at a round table in a big room. There were like 3 people, type of thing. All got masks on the whole time, except when you're actually eating. But it's that whole networking thing sort of out the window. So you've got to reach people through content in other ways. So I think that's sort of spurred me on to do things. I've written the book during the pandemic as well, which takes up a lot of time. I'm doing 6, as you mentioned. I do podcasts every day, Monday to Saturday. Wow. And so that's a lot of work to get those out, get them, edited, get them up online. Sure. But I also it was I think it was August 2019. I'm thinking August 2019. I read that Google announced that they'd start with America and then take it global. They said that we will begin indexing audio, not just text. So when people are doing a search, you can also search what is on audio, as opposed to just what's in text. Wow. And at that point, I was doing 3 podcasts a week. And when I heard that, I doubled it to 6, because I thought to myself, you know what, I'm competing with a lot of people in the text world to get found through text search. But I think I can probably be very powerful in audio search. Sure. And now I've got something like, I think it's 1,450 podcasts out there, all audio. Plus I've got 2 books, which are audio books. I haven't done this one yet because I haven't had time, but I will get to it. Again, it's just another means of being found. So, and I don't know how well that algorithm works for Google, but if anyone, you go and look at me on LinkedIn, just check out, Greg Story, S-T-R-Y on LinkedIn, or do a search in Google on Greg Story, S-T-R-Y, or Dr. Greg Story on Google. The first 5 pages of Google are all me, and that first 5 pages are not being paid for by me. That's organic search, but that's not there by accident. That's there by design. I want it to be the first 100 pages. That's where I'd like it to get to. But and some people have got that, by the way, amazingly. I'm not one of them, but this is something for people to think about. How can you be found through text and audio? How can you be found when people search you? Because people check you out. They hear about you. They check you out. What are they going to see you? Up in beautiful Queensland in a pool with some exotic looking drink in your hand and a big big straw hat on your head. Is that what they're going to see, or are they going to see you looking professional in a business context? Which is it?
And it's not what you know, it's who wants to know you. We talk about that now.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I'm 50 young something, and I know you're young something as well. But what's really interesting is how quick you adapt. You adapt to online. You've used social media really smartly. You've used, content as marketing material. You've already picked up audio and algorithm. So it just goes to show, attracted to our podcast here at Business The Art of Winning are young entrepreneurs who want to move into business people who want to escalate from what I call adolescence to maturity. And then you've got people who have good businesses that may want to on-sell it. So that's probably the breadth of our audience. Yet it's not age dependent in regards to how we innovate, how we change. Just before we go, Greg, what's one piece of advice that you'd like to give our audience today? One thing that you've learned and all that experience that you'd love to leave to our audience today?
I would suggest that you very strategically, carefully, consistently design your personal and professional brand.
Right.
That is something that we didn't have the option to do this in the past, but today we can do it. That TED Talk I did, for example, that's global.
Yeah.
That TED organization is huge, and that talk is global. When I give a talk here in Tokyo, I might give 50, 100 people in the room who will hear that talk. If I stick it on, YouTube, maybe a few thousand people will see it. But with something like a TED Talk, for example, that's global and it's massive. So that's my personal and professional brand out there. So if we're thinking like that, what type of personal and professional brand do we want to have in the public eye? So if you think about that, that's going to trigger a whole series of things that you will do to design and execute on that design so that when people find you in business, they find the best you that you want to put forward, and they will ascertain whether they want to do business with you, want to engage with you or not, based on those first impressions. Now, will you teach the most wonderful program in the world called High Impact Presentations, which is just a phenomenal problem. 2 days, 2 instructors, everything videoed, massive coaching. It is an incredible program.
That is.
For a number of years, I've been asking my students in the course, I teach the same course, how long does it take you to form a first impression of someone you meet for the first time? It used to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, this type of thing. When I ask that question today, people say 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Think about that. This means people are rushing to conclusions about us very, very quickly. And so we have to make sure that if they're checking us out before we actually physically meet them, we've got the right impression before. Now, also when you're giving public talks, people are making very, very, very fast judgments, and they're very slow to unwind those judgments when you give your talk. So, I talk about this is the age of distraction, because your audiences are totally distracted today when you're doing public speaking, because their phone's there, they're bored, they escaped the internet. It's also the era of skepticism. This is maybe Donald Trump with a fake news impact. People are skeptical. So they're distracted and skeptical at the same time. So when you're trying to be clear, concise, persuasive, you're up against this major, major wall. That's why people need what you're doing, teaching high impact presentations, what I'm doing, to overcome that. Because being someone who's persuasive in today's business environment is by far the most difficult time in history to do that. No debate, no question. So work very carefully on designing personal and professional brands. If it isn't what you want, change it.
Oh, great advice. Very wise advice. Hey, my special guest has been Dr. Greg Story, author, entrepreneur, president of Dale Carnegie in Japan, and just a genuinely nice guy. Wise words today, inspiring words today, and help remind me too of my own journey and what's really going to work. Hey, what I took away from your words of wisdom is make sure you've got a professional brand, live in integrity, keep your promises. Long term is better than short term. Thank you, Greg. Nice to have you on this podcast.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a great admirer of the podcast, big fan, love what you do. Please keep doing it. I'm learning a lot from you. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Greg.